Hello everybody and welcome to more Political Excess. This time, let's do another deep dive into an upcoming governor's election. How about we take a look at New Mexico this time? So let's first get some background and start on Ballotpedia. The incumbent governor is Democrat Michelle Lujan Grisham. She's running for re-election to a second term. 4 years ago when she first won election, she won by more than 14 points, good enough for 57% of the vote. Her opponent on the Republican side is Mark Ronchetti, and he is a former TV meteorologist from the Albuquerque area, as well as the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in 2020. He did a little bit better than anticipated, but he still lost by 6 points. So let's go down here and take a look at their primaries. Well, Michelle Lujan Grisham was the incumbent, so she was unopposed in her primary. Mark Ronchetti, he did have a Republican primary to get through, but he got through without much trouble, and he won with close to 60% of the vote. And there will also be a Libertarian candidate on the ballot as well, and it's possible they could take a few votes away from Mark Ronchetti. Let's move on and see how this race is rated. All three of the main sites, Cook Political Report, Inside Elections, and Larry Sabato, have it at lean Democratic. That is my rating as well. There hasn't been a lot of recent polling, especially after the debates. It seems like Grisham is clearly favored to win, but there's a small opening for someone like Ronchetti to win. I thought the race would be closer, given the national environment, and given Mark Ronchetti's better-than-expected performance 2 years ago for the Senate. He's also well known for being on TV, and he does seem to have an exuberant type of energy to actually win the race. It's just that the state is a little bit too blue, and Lujan Grisham is an incumbent, so that's going to make it a little bit of an uphill climb for Mark Ronchetti. So let's go down farther and see how these counties are trending at a presidential level. And we can see that just under 70% of the population lives in 14 counties that are solid Democratic, and that is defined as having voted for the Democrat for president in the last 3 elections. On the other end, there are 26% of the population living in 16 counties that are solid Republican, and there's another 3 counties with 4.4% of the population that are trending Republican, and those are counties that voted for Barack Obama and then Donald Trump twice. And we could go down here and take a look at some of these counties, and those 3 light red counties, which are scattered throughout the state, those are the 3 counties that voted for Donald Trump the last 2 times after having voted for Barack Obama. The most populous of those is Valencia County, and we can see support for the Democrat for president has been up and down over the last 3 cycles, but support for the Republican has increased all the way up to close to 54% last time for Trump. Above that county is Bernalillo County, and Democratic support there has increased all the way up to 61% last time for Biden, while Donald Trump was at 36.6%. Maybe because Mark Ronchetti was from Albuquerque as a meteorologist. It's possible that could help him a little bit. If we go over here to Santa Fe County, that went for Joe Biden by a massive margin of over 50 points. The rest of these counties are pretty much a mix of solid blue and solid red, some of them with over 60 or 70, even some of them over 75% of the vote. A lot of these counties don't have a ton of people in them, but these kinds of margins will add up if you're competing statewide. So feel free to look at some of those counties if you'd like, but let's move along to YouTube and take a look at their channels. Here is Michelle Lujan Grisham's channel. She's got a steady supply of ads, interviews, and other content related to her as governor. And here's Mark Ronchetti's channel. He also has a steady supply of ads and things related to his campaign. How about their official campaign websites? Well, here is Michelle Lujan Grisham's channel. If you want to read about her, see where she stands on the issues, shop at her store, or donate to her campaign. And here is Mark Ronchetti's channel. If you want to read where he stands on the issues, get more background about him, see what kind of events he has, or support his campaign. About the debates, well, there were 2 debates. I did watch these. The links will be down below in the description. You can watch them right here on YouTube. And as I said, Mark Ronchetti, he does have a lot of energy. And they probably trust him to a reasonable extent if they've seen him on TV for all these years. Lujan Grisham, she was on the defensive on some of these attacks from Ronchetti, but her main line of attack was Ronchetti is inexperienced and his stance on abortion. Sometimes the inexperienced thing might be a factor if you're unsure of how the functions of government actually work. Other times it just gets to be a little repetitive and it seems like a cheap attack. The abortion stance, that's probably going to be an issue to some extent, like it is in a lot of states. But going all in on that issue is probably not going to be a great strategy. And of course, Mark Ronchetti has to defend himself on that topic. He has to actually clarify his stance, because that is an issue some voters do care about. Let's move along to Wikipedia and take a look at the endorsements. And Michelle Lujan Grisham, she only has Kamala Harris from the federal offices. That's interesting. She has some local officials and a bunch of organizations. And Mark Ronchetti, he doesn't have a ton, but he's got some of his own. Ron DeSantis, Glenn Youngkin. And let's go down to the polling. And as of the time I'm making this video, in the aggregate, Michelle Lujan Grisham is up 9 points, 49 to 40 on Real Clear Politics. It's a similar story on 538, and let's take a look at these individual polls. The most recent poll is a PPP poll, and that has Grisham with an 8-point lead, 48 to 40. The Survey USA poll shows her up 53 to 37. We definitely need more polls for New Mexico in the final 2 weeks. I want to see if the momentum has changed at all. The most recent information is not good for Ronchetti. Maybe you don't trust PPP or Survey USA. But even so, if Mark Ronchetti actually wants to win, he's going to have to do better than he's doing. Let's compare these poll results to 4 years earlier, see how they stack up. Michelle Lujan Grisham won with 57% of the vote. Steve Pearce had just under 43%, and they were fairly close to gauging Steve Pearce's support. They did underestimate Lujan Grisham by a few points. And finally, let's get on Predict It and take a look at the market. And Michelle Lujan Grisham is in the low 80s. Mark Ronchetti is in the high teens. That's almost overwhelming for Michelle Lujan Grisham. It does not mean she's going to win. There certainly could be a late shift for Ronchetti, but she is the incumbent. New Mexico is a mild to moderately blue state. I know Michelle Lujan Grisham does have a little bit of baggage from a sexual misconduct allegation. She's apparently dealt with that, and it doesn't seem to really be playing a major factor in this race. And she also seems competent enough to actually win this race, even if someone like Mark Ronchetti does have the right kind of energy and possibly the right kind of appeal to actually win statewide. I do find it unappealing, like some other candidates have done, where you lose a statewide election and then you come right back 2 years later to run again for a different office even. So taking back-to-back losses like that, it would be highly disappointing for Mark Ronchetti, especially when it seems like he could actually win some type of notable office. So if it's not in the cards for him this time, I'm not sure where he goes from here. Maybe if it was an open seat, he would have won. But this is a redlining year, so he was rolling the dice. There are plenty of issues that are going to benefit the Republican Party this year. Crime, inflation, and of course in New Mexico, border policy and immigration is going to be near the top of the list. And at this point, I say he comes up short. There's still time for things to change, but I would think he loses by about 3 to 5 points. If he has a real bad night, it could get up to 8 points. And if somehow he has an epic finish at the last second, there's a small chance he pulls off a stunning upset. But that's just going by the information I have right now. Things will come out after I put out this video. But that is a deep dive into the New Mexico governor's election. Let me know in the comments, are you following this race, and what do you think the margin is going to be? Let me know down below. And if you enjoy this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.